All right, today I'm going to show you how you can make paper beads. There are two general categories we're going to focus on today. There are these cylindrical beads, and then there are more tapered beads where they get a little bigger in the middle and then they are thinner down towards the ends. So in addition to this video, I also have one of these resources for each of you. It just walks you through the shape of paper that you need to cut to get one of these different shapes. And there are other examples on the back just to give you an idea. So first things first, we need a cutting mat. You need an X-Acto knife so you can cut your paper. And you definitely need a ruler so you can figure out the shape and the size that you need. So I already cut this rectangular one. This one would be perfect to make something like one of these cylindrical beads. But I'm going to walk you through how you can cut the more complex one, which would be a triangle, to get this kind of tapered bead. So I'm going to take this larger rectangle that I have already cut out, and I'm just going to make a mark so I know where the middle of one end is. Okay, so usually I'd use a pencil. I just have an X-Acto knife here. So now that I have this marked off, I'm going to line my ruler up from that point to one of the back corners. And I'm simply going to hold my ruler because I want a really nice precise cut. And I'm going to drag the knife back. If I need to, I can go over it a couple times just to make sure it comes off. So now I have it tapered on the one side, and I just have to do my taper on the other side. So now I will take my piece and do the same thing from the other direction. So I notice over here, this is where I want it to come to a point, and then I'm lining it up right next to the other back corner, holding it tightly. And then I will cut in that direction as well. All right, so now I have a triangular piece that I'm going to do the tapered bead, and I also have my rectangle. I'm going to do it with this separate pattern that I have. All right, so first thing you need is a toothpick. If you notice, I turned over my rectangle, and I'm still working flat on this surface. I also need some glue, or in this case, I'm using Mod Podge and a paintbrush so I can apply my paint or my glue. Mod Podge is nice to use for this because you can use it to seal your bead, so to make it more shiny afterwards, and you can use it as a glue. So I'm going to start with my toothpick down at the bottom, and I'm trying to put it kind of in the center of the toothpick. I'm going to start by picking up the end and wrapping it around. I don't want to put glue on until the toothpick is completely covered by this paper, or you're going to get the bead stuck to the paper. So all I'm doing now, I know it's tough to see, is I'm trying to kind of make sure it's tightly wrapped around the toothpick and fully around. Okay, so now I'm going to take some of my glue, just a little bit, and I'm going to start applying it to the paper. Okay, you don't want too much, just a little bit does a lot. And I'm just going to carefully roll it forward. It really helps to do this flat on the table. If you try to do it in your hands, it usually doesn't work out so well. All right, now I've come to the end of where my glue was. I'm going to add more on. And it's really important that you try to stay straight as you move forward. If you notice that it's starting to tilt, your toothpick's more like this or like this, you can kind of backtrack a little bit just to make sure that you get it nice and straight. Especially if you want a really nice cylinder, it's worth the time to really go slow. So I would keep going until I either get to the end, or let's say I think this bead is thick enough, I don't really want any more. I can cut a little bit of my extra off, put a little bit of glue on that end. If you put too much on, try to wipe a little off. And then I'm just going to press it. It usually takes an extra second or two to finally press it on so that it stays. So I have the edge that's sticking up there, so I'm just going to go and put a little more pressure on and hold it for a sec. Now immediately after putting this bead on, so it doesn't get stuck, I want to wiggle it on the toothpick to make sure there's no glue buried in there. And then I can take my Mod Podge and do my sealing coat. So I'm just applying the glue or the Mod Podge right to that surface. If you want, you can do little bits right on the end here, but just be careful you don't get anywhere the toothpick is so it doesn't become stuck to the toothpick. All right, so that one's done. I would just let it dry. A nice trick to letting it dry is you can stick it in a hard sponge so it sits up at your table, or if it won't sit comfortably, you can always stick it in kind of in the side. This way it can dry the rest of the time. All right, one more I'm gonna show you, just the tapered one. I'll give you a shot seeing this. So it's the same type of idea, except you wanna start with the bigger end down at the bottom. Still going to wrap my toothpick in really tightly. Pull it back if you need to, so it's really, really stuck on there. And then I would start with my paintbrush, applying the glue. The only difference with this one is you really have to kind of make sure that you're going straight to the tip of the paper, that corner, that point, so that you get a really nice central bump in it. But same thing, I would just put the glue on, slowly start wrapping, and you'll see as you start rolling it up that you can actually see a lot of the different colors in this paper showing. So that's how you can get kind of a neat pattern. This one was actually this paper, but you can see because it's tapered, you actually get almost a different effect with it. So I'm not gonna finish this because I think you get the idea, but this is 2 different ways that you can make the tapered beads or cylindrical beads, and there are lots of other options out there. So give it a shot.